Welcome to Meeple Mentor. I'm Jared, and we're about to play Lewis and Clark: The Expedition. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to play the original game's rules, as well as the second edition reprints version. Let's take a look. I'll show you how to do the first edition rules first, and cover the changes with the second edition last. Feel free to pause the video as needed to follow along with your copy of the game. For your convenience, I've added chapter timestamps in the description to the different sections of the tutorial. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell below the video so you don't miss any of my latest content. Lewis and Clark: The Expedition is based on the historical first American expedition by Meriwether Lewis and William Clark from 1804 to 1806. After the Louisiana Purchase from Napoleon in 1803, Thomas Jefferson decided to send two adventurers to explore the unknown land. In this board game, history is reimagined as if President Jefferson sent multiple expeditions to explore the Wild West. Players each lead a party across the new America, trying to reach the Pacific coast as soon as possible. Only one of these parties will be remembered, the first to arrive. During the game, players must manage their resources and hand of cards, work with the Native Americans along the way, and efficiently move their camp to Fort Clatsop in Oregon to win. First, let's see how to set up the game. First, place the game board in the middle of the table. Place the various hexagonal resources in piles around the board to create supplies. Along the left here, place the blue dugout canoes, and below it the white horses. In the upper right of the board, place wood, fur, food, and equipment. The game comes with resource multiplication marker tokens, which you can set aside next to the board. If a particular resource is running low, you may take one and place the resource on it to show it's worth 3. The resources in the game are intended to be an unlimited supply, so using these markers helps prevent running out. Now you'll need to create the stock of Indian meeples for your player count. As a disclaimer, the game uses the term Indian for Native Americans, even though it's an outdated and historically inaccurate term. When playing solo, create a stock supply of 6. For 2-player games, 9, 3 players, 12, 4 players 15, and 5 players 18. Any extras should return to the box. You can keep the stock below the board in a pile. Move one of these meeples from the stock to the newcomer area of the game board here. Create 2 stacks of boat tiles on the Gulf of Mexico at the bottom of the board. There are 2 types of boats, 6 of each. One type can increase your resource storage capacity, and the other your passenger capacity during your expedition. There are 5 color options players can choose from to be. Each color comes with a scout figure, camp token, double-sided boat tile, and a starting hand of 6 cards. The color and symbol will all match for these components. Each color plays the same. There's no gameplay difference between them. The 6 starting cards for each player are identical and will make up each player's initial hand. Any unused colors or starting cards should return to the game box. The remaining character cards should be shuffled together to form a draw deck. Place it face down at the top of the Journal of Encounters on the edge of the board. Then draw 5 cards from this deck and arrange them by strength shown in the top left corner. The lowest strength card should be put at the bottom of the journal, closest to the Gulf of Mexico, and the highest at the top. If some cards have the same strength, put them out in the order they were drawn. Each player should take 1 Indian from the created stock and put it on their expedition mini board onto the 4th boat space. Then give everyone 3 starting resources from the supply piles, 1 fur, 1 food, and 1 equipment. These should be placed in the empty spaces of the first boat. As a variant, you could take 1 of each of the 4 basic resources and randomly give 3 to the players. Do this for each player, which randomizes a bit more of the starting 3 resources for your game. Each of the scout figures should be placed on the St. Louis starting space on the river. Additionally, put the camp tokens near it pointing to the St. Louis space. Randomly determine a starting player. That player will have the first turn with all turns proceeding clockwise. That's all for the game's setup. Players will be doing actions using both their character cards and by sending Indians to the village in the center of the game board. Most actions will either gain you resources or move your scout forward along the river. As players run out of cards in their hand, they'll need to take a special camp action to retrieve all their played character cards back to their hand. When camping, time penalties are assessed and can cause their scout to move backwards. As long as their scout is ahead of their camp token, the camp token will get to move and point to the scout's new space on the river. Once anyone has successfully placed their camp token on or beyond the Fort Clatsop space, the game immediately ends. They become the first to reach the Pacific and become remembered for all time. On a player's turn, they must take an action. They may optionally also set up camp and recruit a new character from the journal, but always do an action. You may set up camp, recruit a character, and take an action, but the two optional phases cannot be done one after another. So you could set up camp, take an action, then recruit a character, or recruit a character, do an action, then set up camp. Recruiting is optional and setting up camp is optional. Most turns, players just take an action based on their current resources and state of the game. Also, at any time during your turn, you are allowed to reorganize resources and Indians among your boats. There are actually two types of actions possible, and you must choose to do one of them each turn. Either do an action using character cards, or take an action on the game board using an Indian meeple. Character cards always have a strength value associated with them, between 1 and 3. Indian figures have a strength of 1 each. The strength of a character card is found in two places. First by the number shown in the top left, and also on the back of the card by how many Indian shapes are filled in. A character's action will be indicated with symbols on the left of the card, sometimes supplemented with text. Some characters offer multiple things they can do, separated by a slanted black line. To take an action or actions shown on a character card, you must play it from your hand face up on the table in front of you. Then you must give the card strength. A character will never add its own strength value for itself, so you can use one or more other cards from your hand to power it, and or spend Indian meeples from your boats to power it. The card must be given at least 1 strength to activate. You may give it up to 3 strength. The number of actions or times an action can be performed from the card is determined by how much strength you've given it. Let's look at some examples. Let's say you want to play the Commander character card to move your scout forward on the trail. You can place a card behind it face down like this, which will provide 1 strength to it. You could increase that by putting a second or third card behind it as well. Or you could put a stronger card behind it to give it more activations using less cards. Or you could choose not to use a card to power it at all and only use Indians. By assigning 1, 2, or 3 Indians next to it, you can give it 1, 2, or 3 strength. Or you can choose to do some combination of cards and Indians to give it the strength you need. With the Commander powered to 3 strength, you may do his available actions 3 times. Since his card actually shows 3 possible actions, you can do any of them you want in any combination, just no more than 3. If for some reason you've powered up a character card more times than actions you want to take, that's fine. You don't have to do all the actions allowed to you. All your played cards, face down cards for strength, and Indians assigned to any cards will sit face up in front of you and are unavailable until you camp. The second possible action on your turn is to use Indian meeples from your expedition to take actions on the game board village area. The Indians used must come from a boat on your expedition tile, not from any assigned to character cards. You may place one of your Indians on an empty circle and do the associated action 1 time. Occupied circles are unavailable. Or you may place 1, 2, or 3 Indians at a time on a semicircle space in the village, regardless of how many are already there. Then you may perform that action up to the number of Indians just placed. Once a player has placed Indians on the game board, they're no longer theirs and don't count as being in their expedition party. Now that I've explained how to take your mandatory action on a turn, let's look at the other 2 phases in your turn that can be done optionally. Remember that if doing both of them as part of your turn, they must be separated by your main action. 1 before, 1 after. Players will have the opportunity to recruit new characters to their hand from the Journal of Encounters area. When choosing to recruit, You may only gain one new character each round. The cards line up on the board to show an equipment cost and fur cost depending on its spot in the row. The strength value of the character card will always be the equipment cost to recruit it. The fur cost will vary based on its location in the journal. Pay the required resources from your collected resources sitting in your boats. Just return them to the supply. You will have the option to discard and trash one and only one character card from your hand to assist or fully pay for the equipment cost of the recruited card. The strength value of the card you discard will reduce the equipment resource cost by its value. The discarded card will be put into a collective discard pile beside the game board. Once the resources are paid, collect the new character card and immediately add it to your hand. Then you'll draw a new character card to the Journal of Encounters. First, slide the cards down the row to fill in the empty space. Then put the new card in the topmost spot closest to the deck. Don't rearrange the row by strength. That only happened for the setup of the game. The other optional phase of your turn will be to set up camp. You can do this before or after your mandatory action. If you cannot do a character or village action at the start of your turn, you must set up camp before taking your mandatory action that turn. This can happen when you've run out of cards in your hand or have no more Indians to send to the village. When setting up camp, first collect your Indian meeples assigned to your character cards and return them to boats of your expedition. You may reorganize your resources and Indians in all your available boats to minimize the time delays. The time icon is this half moon and sun. You must now calculate how much time you spend at camp. You'll gain one time delay for each card still in your hand when doing the camp, plus the time costs shown on your boats, based on how your resources and Indians are allocated. Now's a good time to explain how your boat storage areas work. The first boat lets you hold up to 3 resources with no time cost. In the second boat, you can hold up to 3 resources as well, but it will cost you 1 time if it contains at least 1 resource in it. The third boat can hold up to 5 resources, but each resource placed there adds 1 time. The first canoe can only hold 1 Indian meeple and has no time cost. The canoes at the end of the tile can hold an unlimited number of Indians, but will add 1 time for each one there. After adding up the time spent camping, you must move your scout figure backwards on the trail that same number. Should you have to move back more than 5 spaces below St. Louis, its movement stops on the first river space. Generally, multiple scout figures can't be on the same space. This and the start of the game violate that rule. Otherwise, when a scout would land on a space where another scout is, move your scout to the next empty space of the track in the direction it was going. Moving through other scouts is fine. Count each space, including ones where other scouts are, but only adjust your final space's movement if necessary because a scout is there. After moving your scout, or not if you have no time penalties, bring your camp token up to its space. Don't move your camp token if your scout is behind where your camp currently is. Lastly, take up all the cards from your playing area back into your hand. Everyone starts with the same 6 starting character cards. Most of them let you collect resources. The Lumberjack, Hunter, Blacksmith, and Fur Trader cards all let you collect resources. The icon shown on the left will correspond to the type of resource the card collects: wood, food, equipment, and fur. You'll also notice the arrows pointing left, right, and down around the icons. When playing a resource card, count the number of resource badges found in the corner of your played cards in your playing area, as well as those played by your neighbor to the left and right. In a 2-player game, look at your playing area and your opponents. Each action you take with this card gains that many resource of its type. Remember, you must power up a played resource card like any other. So if you've put 3 strength to it, multiply 3 by the number of badges among your played cards and your 2 neighbors. You may take as many resources as you want from the corresponding stock up to the total badges calculated. You don't have to take the full amount. However, when gaining resources, you must be able to place them on boats in your expedition. Only place them in empty spaces for them. You may never hold more resources than you have spaces for. Should your resource boats become completely full, you are allowed to return to the supply resources of your choice to fit in more of what you collected. Otherwise, you may not willingly discard resources from your boats. You may always reorganize where everything sits as often as you want though. The Interpreter character card lets you welcome new Indians into your expedition. When the card is played and powered to a strength of 1, gather all the Indians in the village to the powwow area in the center of the village. Then you may take as many Indians as you wish from the powwow area to your boats. Next, discard the character card located at the bottom of the Journal of Encounters, putting it face up in the discard pile. Then, draw a new one from the top of the deck and slide them down to fill in the space. Finally, place a new Indian figure from the stock onto the newcomer area. If the stock is empty, skip this part. If you've powered the card to 2 or 3, you may again discard and add new cards to the journal 1 or 2 more times, as well as adding another Indian to the powwow and newcomer area each time. This character card is really the only way to gain Indians to your expedition, and simultaneously makes all the village actions available again. Make sure you don't choose to discard this, or you'll be severely handicapped for the remainder of the game. The last of the starting character cards is also equally important, as it's the only way to move your scout forward on the route before purchasing new cards. The commander allows you to spend resources to move forward on the route, whether over river or mountain spaces. Each route space will be marked as either a river space, mountain space, or both at the same time. In order to move into a space, you must use the right kind of movement action that matches it. The commander offers the ability to move via water or mountain depending on the resource spent. For each strength that activates this card, choose one of his 3 options. You can pay 1 food from your boats to move your scout forward 2 river spaces. You can pay 1 canoe from your boats to move your scout forward 4 river spaces. Or you can pay 1 horse from your boats to move your scout forward 2 mountain spaces. Your scout will only go as far as is paid for and still matches the spaces moved to. So if you paid for 4 river spaces, but after his 3rd move the next would have to be mountain, then he must stop. Basically, if the land type changes to something the resource can't handle, then the scout's movement stops. During a scout's movement, it cannot end its move on the same space as another scout. If it would, move it instead to the next empty space forwards on the route. In these cases, don't worry about what terrain it ends up on. That covers all 6 starting character cards. The rest of the deck is filled with unique character cards having unique abilities. They use much of the same iconography, but there may be times when you need to check exactly what a card does. The rulebook has every card listed in the appendix by number, so you can easily look up a card quickly. Not only will it give you gameplay instructions, but also a bit of their history. Each character in the game is someone from history who once lived. The village is found in the center of the game board and is composed of 8 different areas, each offering an action that can be taken by the players. 5 of the action areas have a small circle, meaning it can only hold 1 Indian figure at a time. If it's occupied, a player may not take that action. These 2 areas are half-circle actions, meaning any number of Indians can occupy it and never prevent others from taking the action. You don't have to take everything possible from the action, nor even be able to do it at all. When gaining resources, you'll need to have space for them on your boats though. When you place an Indian on one of these 3 action circles, you gain the shown resources. This one is hunting and lets you gain 1 food and 1 fur from the stock and place them on your boats. The craftsmanship action lets you take 1 equipment and 1 wood from the stock and put them on your boats. The gift action gives you a choice. You can either take 2 fur or 2 wood, not both. This is the farewell action. Place an Indian here to discard 0 to 3 character cards from your hand. Put them in the general discard pile next to the board. Then you must discard all the character cards from the Journal of Encounters. Place these in the discard pile as well. Then fully refill the journal by drawing 5 cards off the top. Place them in the order drawn. Do not reorganize any. This action is called Shamanism. Place an Indian here to pay a food to the supply and activate a face-up character action already on the table. You may choose one of your own or one in front of any opponent. No matter what strength was used originally, you may only do the action once. Character cards that have the infinity symbol mean they are permanent effects. These may not be copied. When taking the card's action and calculating rewards earned, treat the card as if it were in your own playing area, not that of your opponent's. The Expedition upgrade area actually has 2 action circles for it, so it may be taken twice before it's no longer available. When placing an Indian to either of these circles, pay 3 wood to the supply and choose 1 boat tile to add to your expedition. The new tile will sit on the side of your expedition board. It doesn't really matter which side of it. You can have any number of extra boat tiles added during the game. There's not a limit here. 1 stack of boat tiles lets you hold more resources. The other lets you carry more Indians. They are 2-sided as well. Once you buy it, you must choose which side will be face up for the remainder of the game. They cannot be turned over again. When buying a new resource boat, you also get to take 2 basic resources of your choice from the supply. When buying a new boat that carries Indians, you may gain 1 Indian figure from the stock. But if there are none left there, you won't get one. This side of the resource boat can hold 2 resources with no time cost during encampment. The other side can hold up to 5 resources and costs 1 time during encampment if there's at least 1 resource placed there. On this boat, you can carry 1 Indian at no time cost. The other side of it lets you hold 3 Indians at a time and adds 1 time cost during encampment if at least 1 Indian is there. The large semicircle area here is the horse trade action. It can hold any number of Indian figures here. As your action, you may place 1, 2, or 3 Indians there. You'll get to do the action 1, 2, or 3 times, or decide not to do the action at all just to get rid of the figures from your expedition. The cost of the action is 3 different resources from your boats. Return them to their supplies and gain 1 horse to one of your resource boats. If you put 3 Indians and want 3 horses, you'll need 9 total resources. In similar fashion, the action below it is canoe manufacturing and also allows any number of Indians to be there. As your action, you may place 1, 2, or 3 Indians here to do the action once, twice, or 3 times. You may pay 2 wood from your boats back to the supply to gain 1 canoe. So if doing this 3 times with 3 Indians just placed, pay 6 wood to gain 3 canoes. Horses and canoes occupy empty resource spaces of your boats. That's all you need to know to play the game. Keep taking turn after turn until one player successfully places their camp token on or past Fort Clatsop. That will immediately end the game. There are no victory points to tally up. It's simply a race to be the first to camp there. Also, after you've played a few times and want to vary up the game board, they've included route change tokens. Design your own route, making different river spaces, mountains, and vice versa. Before going on to explain the second edition's rule differences, I'll first go over the solo mode. Setting up the game is largely the same with minor changes. After adding your scout and camp token to the river, take another scout figure and place him on the river as well. He will be called Alexander Mackenzie. He'll be put on a route space between 0 and 7 spaces upriver from St. Louis. The further up, the more difficult the game will be. Then place the 8 resource badge tokens on the village locations according to their backs. They'll be placed on these village areas like shown. The game plays the same as with multiplayer with the following changes. When collecting resources using character cards, normally you'll include resource badges shown on your neighbor's face-up cards. Without opponents, check the village map at the placed resource badges. If there is an Indian figure sitting on an action adjacent to a badge, you may count this badge towards your resource collection value. The second big change is after each of your turns, the Alexander Mackenzie scout figure moves 1 space forward on the route. In order to beat him and win the solo game, you must settle your camp on or past Fort Clatsop before Alexander Mackenzie gets there. Not only are there rule changes in the second edition, the board has changed a bit, along with new components and cards. Don't worry if you didn't buy the second edition of the game. If you own the first edition, you can download what you need to print out and make your game upgraded and compatible with the new rules. Head to Ludonaute's website for what you need to do it yourself. I've included a link to it in the video's description. You can also do what I did and pick up an upgrade kit sold at retail to make it look better. The Board Game Geek web shop carries it. If you aren't sure right now which version you have, I'm putting up the box covers of both on the screen. They have different artwork. The camp tokens are no longer used, so you can put them back in the box. You'll have a new supply of tokens, which will be time tokens. These can sit near Fort Clatsop on the board. For the boat tiles, only use the front of the boats, the sides with 2 resources and 1 Indian. The backs can't be used anymore. At St. Louis, there will no longer be spaces downstream. A sticker will be placed to cover up the spaces using the upgrade kit. Speaking of stickers, the iconography for the horse trade area has changed. The sticker added clarifies the 6 resources that can be used to gain a horse. You'll still have to spend 3 different resources. Over at the end of the route, you'll add a sticker which puts numbered time icons on each space past Fort Clatsop. A number of character cards have changed, so you should replace these numbered characters with the new ones from the upgrade kit or from ones downloaded and printed off. There are 12 new versions that can replace the previous ones. Now let's look at the gameplay changes. There are no more camp tokens used, and your scout can only move forward. When doing an encampment, after adding up your time cost from cards in your hand and time penalties on your expedition board, gather that many time tokens from the supply. These tokens are gained instead of moving your scout backwards. Scouts still can't be on the same space as other scouts except on the starting space. Now, when moving your scout forward, don't count occupied spaces as part of your movement. If a scout is in front of you, look at the next empty space in front of them for where you can move. If a scout is in front of you, look at the next empty space in front of them for where you can move and the type of movement required. If your scout cannot move to the next empty space forwards, he must stop. When attempting to move your scout, the time tokens you have prevent their movement. Each triggered movement spent for the next visible space in front of your scout is instead used to discard a time token. Once all of your time tokens have been discarded through earned movement, only then can your scout actually advance on the route. So each advancement is hard-earned and a minor victory. The end of the game has changed slightly now as well. If a player moves their scout on or past Fort Clatsop space and takes the encampment action, you should see how many time tokens they have taken after the camp. If they have an equal or less than number of tokens to the space that the scout occupies, the game ends immediately with their victory. If the player has more time tokens than shown on the space, the game resumes. So if camping on the Fort Clatsop space, the player must have no time tokens after camping to win. A scout camped 2 spaces out from Fort Clatsop must not have more than 1 time token to win, for example. At 3 spaces out, they must not have more than 2 time tokens, and so on. That's all the differences and gameplay changes with this 2nd edition. Keep the rulebook handy and check BoardGameGeek.com for FAQs and extra content. Check the video description for links to Top Shelf Gamer for token upgrades, Cloud Puncher Games for board game shelving, and Mr. Meeple t-shirts for cool board gaming shirts. The Meeple Mentor channel is now part of the board game community, the Gateway Network, made up of great upcoming board game content creators. Originally founded by the Gamecasters podcast, the network includes Instagrammers, podcasters, YouTubers, artists, and more. Click the link in the video's description or head over to the Gateway Network's Instagram to find great new content. Thanks for watching this tutorial. Like and subscribe if you found this teaching helpful. Stick around to watch another Learn to Play video. And remember, teach when you can, but always be learning. See you next time.